My name is Roger Hayes. We're here in Liverpool today to film in advance of our conference on the 13th of February, calling for a mass action against the banks. We're asking local residents what they think of bankers. We're filming, we're asking people about bankers, what their views about bankers are. Do you trust bankers?
I do to a certain degree, yeah. But judging by the behaviour of the last few years, no, not necessarily. Because at the end of the day, the economic situation, we're getting back to it now, aren't we? Really, nothing's changed. The situation hasn't changed. They haven't changed the fundamental principles of it, and so we're getting back to it. It's not really gone away.
No.
And the stock markets are showing that now, by the way they plunge. So everyone's nervous.
If I was to tell you that interest on mortgages was actually unlawful, what would you think?
Interest on mortgages
Is unlawful.
I didn't know that.
Well, it's just coming to light now. There's actually a conference in Liverpool on the 13th of February, explains the details.
All right.
Have you ever had a mortgage?
Yes, I have had a mortgage, yeah.
Have you got a mortgage now?
No, I haven't, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you found out that mortgages were actually unlawful and there was a mass action to claim back that interest from the banks, would you be involved in that?
It depends who was claiming the mass action. If it was get-rich-quick lawyers, then no, I wouldn't. But if I could do it on my own, yes, I would.
What do you think of bankers?
They're not great, sure they're not.
Do you trust them?
No, I don't trust them, no. Take all my money out of the bank.
They've taken all your money out of the bank?
No, I take all my money out of the bank.
Right.
I don't trust them, no.
Okay. What would you say if I told you that interest on mortgages and loans, including student loans, is actually unlawful?
I wouldn't be surprised.
And if I told you that there was a mass action against the bankers on that same point, would you get involved in that mass action?
Yeah, I probably would, yeah.
What do you think of bankers?
Sounds like bankers. I'm not keen on bankers.
Do you trust them?
No.
Do you have a mortgage?
Yes. I do have a mortgage.
What would you say if I told you that interest on mortgages is actually unlawful?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be interested to hear more.
Interest on mortgages and loans are actually unlawful, and there's a mass action against the banks. There's a conference on the 13th of February.
Right.
There's some details for you.
Brilliant.
Now that you know that, do you think you're likely to get involved in a mass action against the banks by not paying your mortgage?
I'd have to read into it and study it, but certainly be interested in seeing how it's unlawful and get more information.
We're doing an interview about banking. What do you think about banks and bankers?
Well, what kind of thing about banks and bankers?
I've got nothing personal against bankers.
Do you trust them?
Well, as much as you can trust anybody, yes. Most people do their jobs for good.
You don't suspect that the bankers are actually taking money from us without just cause?
No.
No, there's no evidence.
Most people.
There's no real evidence for that, is there?
No,
a few
most
years ago,
people-
the people right at the top, people who run the banks, the bosses, a few years ago they had bad press and they did a lot of wrong things, a lot of bad things. But there's thousands and thousands of people who work in banks, and to sort of label them all as the same.
Not the staff. We're talking about the top bankers. We're talking about the
They
shit.
What
were
do you
once
say?
people lower down the ranks and they've risen up.
Yeah. Do I trust them? I don't know. I trust my own people, my own bank,
Yeah.
because I have dealings with them, on a fairly regular basis. I've been in the same bank for about 50, 60 years.
Do you have a mortgage, or have you ever had a mortgage?
I've had a mortgage. I had no problems at all with them.
Okay. If I told you that interest on mortgage is actually unlawful, would you be surprised?
Yeah, I would.
Well, of course, interest on mortgages actually is unlawful, and there's a mass action against the banks in Liverpool starting on the 13th of February. If it was proven to you that interest on mortgages was unlawful, do you think that you'd be involved in a mass action against the banks?
I paid off my mortgage years ago, so that wouldn't really interest me enough to take part in any action.
So if interest was repayable to all those people who have paid it, you wouldn't be interested in actually claiming back your interest if it's unlawful?
If I finished paying my mortgage off 15 years ago, would I still be able to claim it?
Absolutely. It's basically fraud, and the evidence is it's fraud, that charging interest on your mortgages is a fraud, and therefore there's no time limit.
Well, before we believe anything on that line, we'd have to suss it out and prove it.
Yeah,
Of
we
course.
need
So
the proof.
you're no better
And
than
if you-
the
and
other
if-
side.
and
in
it- but-
this
But if you're right, yeah.
What do you think about bankers?
But bankers, They scams. They scams. That's what I think. They put my dad in debts, and it's no. They scams.
Where are you from?
Poland. Poland.
Same the world over. So would it be correct to say that you do not trust bankers?
No, I don't. No. They scams. Like one word scams. I swear. So yeah.
Do you have a mortgage? Do your family have a mortgage at all?
Yeah, they do. They do.
If I told you that interest on mortgages was unlawful, what would you think?
All I know that they are a bunch of lies. They are just selling the products and make it all pretty, and then in the end we have to just pay lots of money back to them. So
So if there was a mass action against the banks because interest on mortgages is unlawful, do you think that you might get involved in that mass action?
I would definitely, because it's attached to me as well, right? So I would anything that's not good for human being. Yeah, I'm against.
We're asking people what they think about bankers.
About what?
Bankers. Do you trust bankers?
Not necessarily, no.
That's not a yes, that's not a no. You're not sure.
I suppose not really.
I mean, the history of what bankers have been doing in recent times gives us a concern that they're not actually honest. Would you agree with that?
From what I see in the media, yeah, I suppose. I mean, I don't know too much about it, but yeah.
Do you have a mortgage, or have you ever borrowed money from a bank?
I have, yes.
If I told you that interest on mortgages and loans is actually unlawful, would you be surprised?
Interest is unlawful.
Interest on mortgages and loans is actually unlawful.
That would surprise me, yes.
Okay. There's a mass action that's happening here in Liverpool. There's a leaflet about it.
Thanks.
So if we were actually to provide evidence that interest on mortgages is unlawful, do you think you might get involved in a mass action against the banks?
When you say a mass action, are you talking
To stop paying your bank mortgage or your bank loan?
That would be interesting, yes.
Do you trust the banks? If you be kind enough to step in... Yeah.
But I don't trust them entirely, but I trust the one that I'm in at the moment. I'm allowed to say no. It's nationwide.
Okay. The question is whether you trust banks, and you've indicated that you might trust banks. If I told you that interest on mortgage was unlawful, what would you say?
I haven't. I wouldn't know. I don't know what you mean. It's unlawful.
Well, actually, the banks charge interest on mortgage, but it's proven to be unlawful, and there's a mass action in Liverpool about that key point. And I just wanted to get people's opinions and views as to whether they thought that because they didn't trust banks, that was possible.
So what you're saying is someone can lend you some money to buy a house, but they said they'll lend you £1,000. They can't charge you any more, only the £1,000.
Well, the principle is that the banks don't lend money, they facilitate credit, which is an entirely different concept. Difficult to explain on camera now, but the point we're making is that interest on mortgages is unlawful, and given that fact and that fact being proven to you, do you think you might get involved in a mass action against the banks?
No, because I'm 78 and my days have gone for that.
When I say a mass action, I don't mean in the street just by stop paying your loans or your mortgage.
No, I wouldn't be. I'm too old strong in the tooth, too old in life to do that now.
Fair enough.
When I was getting a mortgage, it might have been a different thing.
All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Right. Do you trust banks?
Not really.
Do you have a mortgage?
No.
Have you ever had a mortgage or a loan from a bank?
Yes.
If I told you that interest on mortgages was unlawful and that you therefore had a claim against the banks for that unlawful charge, what would you say?
I've got PPI pending.
Okay, PPI is one thing that demonstrates the if you like the illegal actions of the banks, but because you now know that interest on mortgages is unlawful, do you think that you'd be interested in taking action against the banks?
I could probably speak to the people that's dealing with my PPI back home. You know what I mean?
So you would be quite interested in taking action? Yeah. Sir, have you got a quick minute to answer a question?
Got him.
What do you think about banking?
Terrible.
What do you think about the bankers?
Terrible.
Do you trust them?
Not at all.
Do you have a mortgage?
I don't know.
If I told you that interest on mortgage was unlawful, what would you say?
I can't believe you tell the truth.
Okay, thank you. We're asking people their views about bankers.
Okay.
Do you trust them?
No, not at all.
You don't trust bankers? No. Do you have a mortgage or a loan from the bank at all?
Both. I've got a mortgage and a loan.
If I told you that interest on mortgage was actually unlawful, what would you think?
I'd want my money back, or the money that I've paid I'd want to be reimbursed for.
If I told you there's a mass action starting against the banks on the 13th of February, there's some details. Do you think that you might get involved in a mass action against the banks?
Yeah, probably I would, yeah.
And do you think you'd probably spread the word to your family and friends?
Yeah, definitely, because I think we all deserve something back from them.
What do you think about bankers?
I've probably got a low opinion of them. Not the top ones at the top, I would say.
You don't trust them?
Not the ones at the top, no.
If I told you that interest on mortgages was unlawful, what would you think?
I wouldn't believe you, I'm afraid.
Okay. If it was proven to you that interest on mortgages is unlawful, would you be involved in an action against them?
No, because although I've said I've got a negative opinion of bankers, it is necessary to provide finance to buy houses, and I can't see how that can be done without charging interest.
Okay, so you're happy with paying interest to the banks when it's actually unlawful then?
Well, it's not always banks, building societies.
But if, as I say, if it was proven to you that interest on mortgages was unlawful, you'd still pay the banks?
Well, what about building societies?
The same thing. Interest on mortgages is actually unlawful, and what we're trying to do with people is ask the question whether they actually be involved in any action against the banks, bearing in mind it is unlawful. So the question is, do you think if it was proven to you that interest on mortgages is unlawful, that you would get involved in action against them?
No, I wouldn't.
The question is, do you trust bankers?
No.
Do you have a mortgage, or have you had a loan from a bank at any time?
I've had mortgages before, yeah.
If I told you that interest on mortgages is actually unlawful, what would you think?
I'd probably believe you.
It is unlawful, and in fact there's a mass action against the banks in Liverpool on the 13th of February. If I told you that there was an action, would you be involved in that action?
I'm more internet activist myself.
Well, this is actually about not paying your mortgage or not paying your loans against the banks as opposed to a physical action. So in bearing that in mind, do you think you might get involved in that?
Probably not. Like I say, I'm more an internet activist.
So we've been in Liverpool today talking to people about the mass action against the banks. We've had some very interesting response, and we're now hoping that around the country people will join us in Liverpool on the 13th of February and help spread the word about mass action against the banks to stop paying their mortgages, their loans, etc.